represented by Mr. Phil Lewis, CEO. In addition, our other sponsors joining us today are Terry Allen, Senior Associate, Booz Allen Hamilton; Scott Barnett, Vice President, Department of Defense Sales, CenturyLink; Sean Bierweiler, Vice President and General Manager of Public Sector, Cloudera; Vice Admiral Ted Branch, U.S. Navy retired, Senior Vice President and General Manager, Navy and Marine Corps Group Perspecta; Chris Carura, Vice President, Federal Sales, CommScope; Mario Diaz, Sales Director, VMware; James Enix, General Manager, Fire River Services and Akima Company; Amy Fadida, President and CEO, AM Fadida Consulting; Fred Ferrares, Director of the Department of Defense Verizon Business Group; Bob Fortna, President, Federal Fortinet; Scott Froman, Federal Sales Executive, Google Cloud; Glenn Hagan, Account Executive, Pure Storage; Chris Rainsbottom, DoD Director, Sienna Government Solutions; Sam Weber, Account Executive, Federal Cohesity; Jim Rev West, Senior Vice President, Mission Engineering and Resilience, IS-4 Management Services, AECOM. AFCEA Hawaii has been blessed with many outstanding leaders that have allowed it to become a model for other chapters to emulate. At this time, may I ask the current and former presidents of AFCEA Hawaii to rise for recognition.
It's the entrees. I don't like the disruption of people walking.
Please join me in a round of applause.
Like I said, it's too late now, but for the next 2 days.
I would like to ask Mr. Ed Rigolwitz, Hawaii AFCEA Regional VP, to come on stage and present AFCEA International Awards.
Aloha, each and every one of you. Please continue with your lunch. At this time, I'd like to call Lieutenant General Bob Shea and Mr. Corey Lindo to the podium for the presentations. We have at this time a couple of international awards that were previously recognized at another event on the mainland, but the individuals were unable to come. They were AFCEA Hawaii chapter members. It's Yolanda Yogi Fong, if she's coming up. And Jeff Bloom from our chapter. Jeff? You guys could come. Yolanda, or Yogi, I should say, as we all know her, she was recognized as part of one of the awardees for women in AFCEA for all her activities and volunteerism here at the Hawaii chapter. So, like I said, her formal presentation was, and devices were presented earlier to her, but we just wanted to bring her up and have General Shea and company recognize her and to recognize her in front of the entire, okay? Well, we do have them. I lied. So Yogi, thank you for your tremendous volunteerism here with the chapter. Yogi is actually, Yogi is our secretary for the chapter, and she lives in Washington State, and she telecons in for the meetings, and then she presents the minutes afterwards, so tremendous activity. And she flew in to volunteer, and under her leadership, she was able to get 198 AFCEA Hawaii and non-AFCEA volunteers for the show. So thank you very much, Yogi. And our president, Jeff Bloom, is being recognized at this time for his contribution again to the Hawaii chapter and for his activities throughout the year. So you build up for different awards. And at this time, I'd like General Shea to present the Medal of Merit to Jeff Bloom, our chapter president. Thank you, Jeff. Please stay up here, all of you. We have another person we'd like to recognize, and this individual has been a tremendous volunteer for the Hawaii chapter for many, many years. As a matter of fact, her and her husband, Bill, flies in to volunteer from the mainland. But we'd like to call Roseanne Cinnamon to the stage at this time. And Roseanne is receiving a special recognition from General Shea for her outstanding service to AFCEA and AFCEA International. Roseanne also is the co-chair for she's a co-chair for the International Membership Committee. She's also a member of the Women in AFCEA. She's attended not only our shows, but many, many, many shows on the mainland, and just an all-around super individual, and her husband. So thank you so much. Okay, thank you all. Yeah. Please continue with your lunch at this time.
May I have your attention? Ladies and gentlemen, this afternoon's speaker is Admiral Philip Davidson, Commander of the United States Indo-Pacific Command. Admiral Davidson is the 25th Commander of the United States Indo-Pacific Command, America's oldest and largest military combatant command based here in Hawaii. U.S. Indo-PACOM is responsible for all U.S. military activities in the Indo-Pacific, covering 36 nations, 14 time zones, and more than 50% of the world's population. As a surface warfare officer, he deployed across the globe in frigates, destroyers, cruisers, and aircraft carriers. His sea service assignments include command of Carrier Strike Group 8, Eisenhower Carrier Strike Group, USS Gettysburg, CG-64, and the USS Taylor, FFG-50. In his most recent assignment, he served as Commander, U.S. Fleet Forces Command, Naval Forces U.S. Northern Command. He also served as Commander, U.S. Sixth Fleet, and Commander, Naval Striking and Support Forces, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, while simultaneously serving as Deputy Commander, U.S. Naval Forces Europe and U.S. Naval Forces Africa. Admiral Davidson is a 1982 graduate of the United States Naval Academy with a degree in physics, and he is a distinguished graduate of the U.S. Naval War College with a Master of Arts in National Security and Strategic Studies. If you have any questions for Admiral Davidson, please text him to the address located on the screens. They will be provided for him to answer. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a warm welcome for the Commander of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, Admiral Philip S. Davidson.
Hi, good afternoon. Aloha. You all are right in the rhythm of things here in Hawaii. We're having a pretty glorious week here this week. The sun is out. I hope you get a chance to see a little bit of it while you're here. I want to thank AFCEA for inviting me to speak here today and for continuing to support this event here in Honolulu. It does so much to not only bring together the technical information technology networks community from across the United States, but across the Indo-Pacific as well, and I'm grateful that you would do it here in Honolulu. Thank you to the Hilton Hawaiian Village as well for hosting. They always do a great job. I got to see a couple of the booths on the way in here, and I know you're getting great support. Thank you to Admiral Mackey at AFCEA International, as well as AFCEA International, AFCEA Hawaii, for making this event possible. As I look around the room at the collection of industry partners, academia, and service members I realize why organizations that bring us together like AFCEA are critical to our success. And it is also great to see representation from several nations, the UK, Canada, and Australia, as we discuss the challenges facing our combined force through digital modernization, and more importantly, how we can work together to address them. These issues affect all nations with interest in the region. There's no doubt about it that our training, I think, is really the asymmetric advantage that the United States puts into the battle space and the investment that they make in their people. But as I get around the region, talk to our allies and partners, see what they're investing in, and the vast majority of it is United States equipment, I know that technology has long provided the U.S. military with a distinct competitive advantage as well. Today's environment, which is very dynamic, all nations are seeking to become tech leaders. We have to be able to leverage that, understand that all nations are seeking to become tech leaders, but understand where we can cooperate as well across the whole of the joint and combined forces and see how it affects air, land, sea, space, and cyberspace. I'm going to take a little bit of time today to discuss our vision, the United States vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific, what I see as the distinct strategic challenges here in the region, and that's led by China, as well as how we can work together in our digital modernization efforts going forward. After I give my remarks, I'd be happy to take just a couple of questions, or I'm interested in hearing your perspectives and feedback in that time frame. Now, you may recall that the United States announced a vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific at the 2017 East Asia Summit in Vietnam. And since that announcement, the vision has been advanced in the form of several speeches and policy papers by many senior officials in the U.S. government. Vice President Pence, as recently as last month at the Wilson Center, Secretary Pompeo at the Pacific Business Island Forum, and Secretary Esper, just over the course of the last few days, as he's traveled to Korea, the ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting Plus in Bangkok, as well as on travel to the Philippines and Vietnam, just here over the course of the last week or so. Additionally, there's been a general convergence toward the articulation of a common free and open Indo-Pacific vision by other nations, including Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Prime Minister Modi of India at the Shangri-La in 2018, and just put forth recently under the leadership of Indonesia, has been ASEAN's vision of what they call a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific. We here at Indo-Pacific Command are staunchly committed to the idea of a free and open Indo-Pacific and filling our lane in the military space and influencing in the other spaces that exist. But to be clear, I want to explain to you all what this vision includes. Free. When I say free, I mean free both in terms of traditional security, free from coercion by other nations, but also in terms of values and political systems. Free societies respect individual rights and liberties, the promotion of good governance, and adherence to the shared values of the United Nations Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Free also means nations do not have to choose with whom they partner with, or trade with out of fear or coercion. Instead, they are free to exercise their sovereignty, that is to say, their choice. Open. What does open mean? Open means all nations should enjoy unfettered, open access to the seas and airways upon which our people and economies depend. The concept of openness also applies to the cyberspace and space domains, which provide critical avenues for future global prosperity. According to this vision, nations are able to have open investment environments, transparent agreements between one another, protection of intellectual property rights, and fair and reciprocal trade. I say it all the time, seas are not borders. They are not boundaries, and the oceans, especially the Pacific Ocean, do not separate us. It is indeed the critical path that binds us all together here in the Indo-Pacific, bringing mutual benefits, common growth, and shared success. China, on the other hand, has a very different values system than the United States. In fact, senior Chinese officials now openly express dissatisfaction with the existing world order and our vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific, describing it as built and led by the United States and cemented in Western values. It's interesting to me that Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg highlighted this divide in his comments at Georgetown just last month, stating, "China is building its own internet focused on very different values. Until recently, the internet in almost every country outside of China has been defined by American platforms with strong free expression values." In stark contrast to our values, the Communist Party of China is persistent and aggressive in their use of digital means to challenge an open, interoperable, and secure internet. This is a perfect example of the difference between our view of free and open and their view of closed and controlled. China looks to exploit our digital dependencies and vulnerabilities in cyberspace, using them to weaken our democratic institutions by propagating dissonance to gain diplomatic, information, military, and economic advantages. The People's Republic of China incentivizes state-sponsored espionage activity to gather information and implement cyber attacks short of open warfare. Vice President Pence highlighted this fact in his recent remarks at the Wilson Center, noting that the Justice Department unveiled a nearly 4-year operation by a notorious hacking group within China's Ministry of State Security. He went on to say, and I quote, "Chinese government officials stole the names and data of 100,000 U.S. Navy personnel, as well as ship maintenance information, with grave implications for our national security." The People's Republic of China continues to pursue intellectual property theft through methods such as cyber, espionage, counterfeiting, and piracy, and they do it by any means necessary. They use sophisticated cyber tools to undermine our economy through widespread theft of our intellectual property and economic espionage conducted against various industries, not just defense and defense contractors. They include finance, insurance, healthcare, technology, telecommunications, indeed, even the entertainment industry. China frequently targets U.S. Department of Defense and cleared defense contractor networks, no doubt, to fill their gaps in its research programs and to gather intelligence on our strategies and plans. This state-sponsored theft creates an environment that rewards illegal behavior and advances the People's Republic of China's political goals. That takes me to Huawei. There is no mistake that Huawei offers equipment and improvements to infrastructure at ultra-low cost, but China is not offering this technology for benevolent means. They use Huawei to gain information about its users. Huawei is China's largest IT provider, and they can potentially be used as an extension of the People's Republic of China's intelligence service, as well as a point of entry for critical cyber access and control through the One Belt, One Road and other initiatives they have across the globe. Vice President Pence did not hold back in his comments on this issue, stating, "We have taken strong steps to curtail illegal behavior of Chinese companies like Huawei and ZTE, and we have urged our allies around the world to build secure 5G networks that don't give Beijing control of our most sensitive infrastructure data." The Communist Party of China is well known for controlling Chinese news media information, guaranteeing a pro-party message across all platforms. You're seeing this play out right now, the crisis in Hong Kong. Their work includes social media apps like WeChat and TikTok, which extend messaging and censorship beyond China's borders. In a recent letter to the Director of National Intelligence, U.S. Senators Cotton and Schumer warned that TikTok reportedly censors content related to the recent Hong Kong protests and references to Tiananmen Square, Tibetan and Taiwanese independence, and the imprisonment of Uyghurs. It is quite clear that China is exhausting all efforts to capitalize on their digital modernization in order to challenge the values of the rules-based international order. So for us, what does that mean? As the new national cyber strategy highlights, our prosperity and security depend on our response to the opportunities and challenges in cyberspace by exposing, disrupting, and degrading cyber activity that threatens our values and our interests, while strengthening the cybersecurity and resiliency of key potential targets. Our critical infrastructure, national defense, and our American values rely on computer-driven and interconnected digital information technologies. There's no doubt about it. And as the entire world becomes more dependent on the Internet of Things, we are discovering new vulnerabilities and threats on a daily basis. Indeed, the United States is in continuous digital competition with China. Technologies such as artificial intelligence, automation, robotics, directed energy, and biotechnology, nanotechnology as well, are available to them and at lower barriers of entry. At U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, our cyber strategy emphasizes backing the region's joint and combined force with digital capabilities and effects and incorporating them into a resilient, secure, and interoperable network architecture to support all domain operations. All of us here in this room, we have to work together, all of us across the joint force, all of us across academia, industry, the U.S. government, and along with our allies and partners, as I implied at the beginning of my discussion here, to harness our collective expertise and our creativity in overcoming the complicated problem sets that affect us all. In addressing these challenges, I would ask you to focus on 4 areas to support our digital modernization efforts. They're absolutely necessary to succeed on the future battlefield. First, integrated systems and networks are necessary to enable us to share with our allies and partners. Interoperability, releasability, integrity are absolutely essential to our ability to share. Increasing partner capacity and understanding what that capacity is up front helps strengthen the ability of the United States and its allies, especially partners as well, to form a credible multinational force. I consistently advocate for networks that are built to support joint and coalition operations. Coalition especially, such as the Mission Partner Environment, as well as BICES, the Battlefield Information Collection and Exploitation Systems. The challenge lies in ensuring that information is secured to a level that our allies and partners are satisfied to, and that we're satisfied to, in terms of separation and management. And to date, the solution has been network-based, dedicated to each mission partnership enclave. This network-centric approach is slowly migrating to a more cloud-based process, which is closer to being data-centric in my mind. And I think a data-centric approach to information sharing with multinational coalitions and roles-based releasability caveats will drive a more agile, rapid, and effective process for us, all our foreign disclosure operations, to bring all this together. Second, we've got to understand where you're headed. We, the United States, we're headed to incorporate artificial intelligence and machine learning to identify and defeat threats in near real time by connecting sensors and shooters across all domains and all the joint force, with the ability to engage thousands of potential targets within hours, with kinetic effects and with non-kinetic effects. The combined force must possess agile, robust, and secure IT infrastructure to bring all this together. Services that transform data into useful information, ensuring rapid decision-making during mission execution. It's a new digital operating environment, and we need to build upon the advanced capabilities and enabling technologies to expand what we consider to be our military advantage. I'll be quite forthright. For the United States and for all our allies and partners, there are policy issues with AI and big data management that need to be addressed government by government, and we have to have a combined conversation to understand where everyone is headed, because it's going to help determine step one in this process. how much we're going to share. Nations need to get moving on those policy issues before we even get to exchanging the ones and zeros on this. Third, we need resiliency in our command and control. It is important that we understand that the technology we rely on is absolutely necessary to defeat our adversaries during contingency operations and integrated or denied environments. There was a time in which our investments in IT and systems that help support that IT sensing especially could be bought on the cheap without the necessary protections that were needed, because the approach was a business approach, that we could drive out manpower and cost, but we wouldn't have to worry about the vulnerabilities in the systems. I think those days are gone. We need vital technologies such as protected satellites, enhanced encryption, and adaptive radio frequency jamming and sensing capabilities that mask and hide our electromagnetic signature as well. This helps deny our adversaries anti-access and aerial denial capabilities, and therefore defeating their standoff capabilities. Finally, and most importantly for all of us, across the USG, not just in the military space, and with all our allies and partners, we all must scrupulously secure our systems and networks. We are under attack continuously from all types of adversaries, state, non-state, not just China. All of them are trying to use cyberspace to their advantage to gain access to sensitive information. Such attacks are routinely conducted against our allies and partners as well. And while some are taking necessary actions to secure their critical systems and networks, a number of our allies and partners do not even realize that they are occurring. There needs to be a broad awakening that this is happening across the globe. This is of great concern as nations, if these nations fail to put preventive measures in place, fail to provide the integrity that we're seeking in the backbone, cabling, infrastructure in these networks. It is a security vulnerability for all of a coalition force, and we will have to make hard choices if people cannot deliver on that security and integrity. So that all brings me back to the first point on sharing. Got to have these things to get to the sharing piece at the beginning. So what I just laid out are realistic solutions to overcome some of the challenges facing the coalition and combined force, as well as the values behind a free and open Indo-Pacific. And as commander of U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, my focus has to remain on preparing the joint force in the region for the challenges of today as well as into the future. I have to tell you, I'm optimistic about this future. I think we're having a cohesive dialogue across the leadership level here in the department. I know everyone is committed to confronting these challenges alongside our industry partners at all levels of government and with our allies and partners. A future in which the digital world is represented by the values of a free and open Indo-Pacific with open access to the information domain to advance global peace and prosperity, freedom of navigation and communication on secure networks, websites, and cloud-based services, with protection of human rights and individual liberties like freedom of expression in cyberspace without fear of retribution, and finally with alliances and partnerships that promote good governance, protect all of our nation's sovereignty, and help us provide mutual defense that addresses our mutual security concerns through our information sharing agreements. And in order to succeed, we must build on these strengths, harness best ideas, and take collective action as one. With that in mind, I appreciate your attention here today. Again, I appreciate your attendance here in Honolulu to the AFCEA TechNet. I welcome a couple of your questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you, sir. First question. We see artificial intelligence capabilities as a huge focus of our Department of Defense. Are there any AI-related mission initiatives here in the Indo-PACOM AOR?
I'll try to keep this unsecure, but certainly I think as we plunge into big data learning, which I view, and some of you that are more sophisticated technologically than I am might think about it slightly different. But as we start to parse big data and what it'll mean to artificial intelligence, our ability to sense better and more broadly, our ability perhaps to do a finer set of what I call weapon pairing, which would enable long-range precision fires across the whole of the joint force, that weapon pairing to understand what is the best weapon to address the most opportune target in the fastest sense. I think those are the first couple of, and these are large hurdles to jump over, no doubt, to move on going forward. There's a lot happening, I think, in the sensing space. I'll restrict my conversation in this open forum to that. In the sensing space in this regard, and I think there's incredible opportunity here for industry and really all of our intelligence apparatus and how we think about how we do our sensing in the battle space going forward. Next.
Thank you, sir. We have time for 2 more questions. First one, how are you addressing all domain challenges that face naval forces?
Can we get a little more specific than that?
Mike, stand up and elaborate, if you will.
Sir, I asked that question. I'd like to see if you could comment on, if you can or not, how you might be addressing each one of the domains, or maybe collectively one or two of the domains, maritime, space. Look at it in that direction.
How am I addressing all domains that face naval? I'm sorry. You mean threat challenges?
Operating through all domain, all domain environments.
Yeah.
And it applies to command and control. It applies also, the armed forces reaction to X, whatever X might be.
I'm not sure where the question is here. I mean, some of the challenges I just talked about that I'm worried about for the joint force that affect all domains is, the resiliency that's built into our systems, the security, that everything we do going forward is going to have to be in a shared environment, but that shared environment is going to have to understand what the standards and the integrity are behind it. These are,
And that's what I was focused on.
yeah.
Alternate means of communications during a time when you're blacked out through whatever jamming opportunities might be out there. Those types of things.
Yeah. No, I mean, I talked about a bit of that in my speech. Certainly, are we thinking about contested and denied environments? Yeah, absolutely. And the joint force is, and in my joint exercise portfolio, are we imposing those kind of conditions on people to see how the joint force responds? Yeah, absolutely. We're bringing our allies and partners along with that. It's also happening service by service as they're growing up now in the system. It's one of the advances of coming out of the coin constabulary era. Over the course of the last 5 years, people have been transitioning into this to make sure that they can operate in these contested and denied environments. So, thanks. How about
Thank
another?
you, sir. We've got one more question, and it's, how can industry help with your top challenge or challenges?
Yeah, I think you got the message on Huawei, right? So we have to understand that if we're going to go forward, the very basics of discussion about a free and open Indo-Pacific means, we're going forward with our allies and partners here in the region. And I have to tell you, I mentioned 36 countries in the Indo-Pacific. They want to be with us. And it's because of the values that the United States has long brought to the region over the last couple hundred years, but certainly in the post-World War II environment as well. But the integrity of those systems and how we're all advancing in the technological age, I think, is critically important. Don't get me wrong. the United States is not pursuing a decoupling from China. China is pursuing a decoupling from the United States in many respects. We're willing and able and want to cooperate with China where we can. But we have to understand what's actually happening out here in the threat environment. We're living every day, every hour, challenges, however you think about it. Phase zero, that's the way I think about it, gray zone, hybrid, in cyberspace going forward. It's playing out now. Understanding that the integrity of all of our systems and networks is critically important to our ability to cooperate with others, and the idea of a free and open Indo-Pacific is critical going forward. And this is a bit of a challenge to our allies and partners and their industries as well. We got to go into that with that as the entering argument here. I'm not seeking an environment, nor is it helpful to us, where we would have a significantly stovepiped U.S. system that is not able to be shared with our allies and partners. That's going to require quite a bit of collaboration beyond just one between industry and the U.S. government. It's going to require a wider one than that. By the same token, I would expect industry to be challenging our allies and partners and their governments on the kind of standards and rigor we're trying to build into these systems. That's critically important. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Admiral Davidson, I got to thank you for the candor which you addressed this audience today. It was absolutely superb. And if you don't get it, you just weren't listening. So the challenge is before us. The consequences are significant, and the message was clear. So thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Great presentation. I'd like to mention a few admin remarks to conclude today's luncheon. Again, please download the AFCEA 365 free app for details on panels and continuing education courses. The U.S. Indo-PACOM CIO panel discussion on advancing coalition C4 resiliency will be at 13:30 in the South Pacific Ballroom. Be sure to visit the Young AFCEAN panel entitled Inclusive Leadership, Young AFCEANs Thriving in a Diverse New World. And at 1600, there will be an exhibitor-sponsored reception on the exhibit floor. Tomorrow's evening Pauhana event tickets on the Great Lawn are still available at the registration desk. The AFCEA Hawaii Educational Foundations is holding their annual golf tournament on Friday. Please sign up at the members' room. Now that Admiral Davidson is gone, he's a 1982 Naval Academy grad, I can continue my anti-Navy jokes. Got a couple mean stares this morning when I attacked Navy, so I apologize. Thank you for attending. This concludes our afternoon event.
And he just